Hello, welcome back to Zenith Unlocked Freedom from Addiction. We are moving on to the third session of this sixth key on positive thinking. In this third session, we will focus on controlling your thoughts. It is absolutely necessary that you control your thoughts. We can do this in a way through training our minds through affirmations, but more needs to be done. To get my point across, let me tell you a made-up story about a man named Jacob. Jacob was on his way to his new job at the law firm. He was going to start his career in law as a paralegal. He was very excited as he wanted to pass the bar to become a lawyer one day and wanted to learn as much as he could about this kind of work as he prepared for that. After arriving at the office, he was immediately handed a bunch of papers that had records for past trials that they needed him to research. Upon seeing how big the stack was, Jacob heard in his mind the thought, "You can't get through all that." He started feeling bad about himself, but got to work anyway. He was able to implement a system he remembered from school and typed up a report that gave his team the info they needed and handed it to his new boss. His boss looked amazed, read a few lines and said, "Wonderful job, Jacob. I'm amazed you were able to do such great work so quickly." However, Jacob thought to himself, "He's just trying to make me feel good. He probably hates me." Later, after some more heavy-duty researching and writing, Jacob went down to the cafe. He saw some people his age from the office, but immediately thought, "Oh, they probably don't like me." So he went and sat by himself. After lunch, he went back to work, and the afternoon was just like the morning. He liked the work and hoped that this job would last for a while. However, upon returning home, he felt awful. He was frustrated with himself and was worried that his new boss might not like him. Kind of a sad story, but I wanted to share it to get the point across about controlling your thoughts. This is a really important lesson. Ready? Not every thought you have is true. Your brain can lie to you. You think the wrong thing sometimes. Jacob thought the incorrect thoughts all day at his new job, and it ruined his first day at work. He assumed the wrong things and missed out on what could have been a wonderful experience. If you find this happening with you, this does not have to be your experience anymore. It is time to take back your mind. You're going to learn to repel these attacks and think only what is true about yourself from now on. This can happen. You can encounter something in the world and a negative thought enters your mind. It can be so natural and happens so nonchalantly that it is easy just to accept it as true without any resistance. However, when we accept a negative thought like the ones Jacob did, it can cause a lot of damage, just like it did for Jacob. How then can we overcome this? How can we control our thoughts to ensure that we do not end up like Jacob? Controlling your thoughts is actually a lot simpler than it sounds. It just takes 4 steps. Let's go over the steps and then we will apply them to Jacob's story. If a thought like the ones Jacob had enters into your mind, you should do the following. First, reflect upon the thought and ask yourself, is this true? Does this reflect how things really are? Why do you think that this is true or false? The second step is to ask, why did I think this? What happened in the scenario that caused you to think the thought that you did? Did the thought accurately connect with the experience? Or was it just some assumption that was not truly based on reality? The third step is to look at the evidence in your life for whether this thought is true. If you have even one tiny bit of evidence that it is false, I will say that it is most likely false. I feel like most negative thoughts that are based off of assumptions, like assuming someone doesn't like you just because they see you, are false. It is also important to remember that we are not looking for evidence in favor of the negative thought. We already know that you have evidence for that, or else you would not have thought it. Finally, the last step is to think about your past for other evidence that might explain why you would think this. Do you normally struggle with thoughts like this even when they are based on assumptions or misperceived events? Has something happened in your past that would cause you to think things like this? These are good questions that you might not have time to answer at that moment, so save that thought. Don't buy into it all at once. Just put it to the side for later. Like Jacob could have asked himself these questions when he got home to determine if he really had a bad day. Let's just look back at the encounter with his boss. When he thought his boss was faking his admiration for his work, he could have asked himself, is it true that my boss was faking his admiration? And the answer could be that it is possible. So we go on to the next question. Why do I think this? And Jacob could be honest and say, well, I always think this. Or he could also say, because people sometimes do that, which is fair. So the third question is, What evidence is there in my life that would lead me to think something like this is true? And Jacob could think and say, well, I've always been good at writing and actually made all A's in high school and college, so actually, I'm usually getting praised for my work. And then for the last step, he could ask the question, what other evidence might explain why you would think this was true? And he could remember that rough time he had in 3rd grade when he struggled with math and could not get it right and thought he was dumb for the whole year. And after that, he always felt like he was really not great at school, but his teachers were just being nice to him. Okay, so an easy made-up story, and we were able to walk through that one, but it was easy to see how what Jacob was thinking was not true. Remember that not every thought you have is based on reality. So if you ever have a thought that leaves you discouraged, it would be a good idea to run it through these questions. You do not want thoughts like these to continue to cause you problems and miss out on the incredible experience of life that you are truly meant for.